Welcome to the Hindustani Poetry Podcast. I am Samina Mishra. This podcast is a curation of poetry written by children in workshops that were part of the Hindustani research project. The poems explore the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity guaranteed to all citizens by the Constitution of India. The children writing these poems are from grades 6 to 9 from 3 places. Shahin Bagh in Delhi, that was a site of a citizens' protest against the Citizenship Amendment Act. Rural Firozpur in Punjab, that was active in the farmers' protests. And Kitab Mahal, a library catering to Dalit and Muslim children in Govandi, Mumbai. The children are a mixed group. Some study in English medium private schools, some in government schools. Some children wrote in Hindi, some in English. They bring their diverse contexts into the poems they write, giving us glimpses of their lived experiences. Listening to their poems can lead us to think about our own experiences of liberty, equality and fraternity and examine what citizenship means. The poems can perhaps open a window to the world we seek to live in. In this episode, we share children's voices on freedom. Different children speak about how they experience freedom in their everyday lives. Children from cities and villages, girls and boys, from poor families and not so poor ones, from Hindu and Muslim and Sikh families. By listening to the children speak about what makes them feel free, is there something we can learn about the nature of freedom?
I am free. I am free in school to study any subject I want, to play, to speak, to ask questions. I can read any book in school, but I am not free to talk. I am not free in school to talk with friends, to talk too much, to have fun. I am free in the library. I can ask any questions. I cannot feel bad here. I am free at home. I can read anything. But I am not free to fight. I am free at home. I can think anything, but I am not free to play. I am free at home. I can watch TV, use the phone, but I cannot do masti. In the home of my dreams, there will be freedom to speak, to play, to think.
This poem is a collection of several children's writing. Their voices show us how the same space, for example, the home or school, can be one that makes them feel free as well as not free. Did you recognize yourself in any of the lines? Man is born free and everywhere he is in chains. Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote this in The Social Contract, published in 1762. Freedom is a necessary condition for all human beings. And yet, as Rousseau said, it is not always freely available. The struggle for freedom takes different shapes, depending on the conditions that make up individual lives. So in this poem, a child feels free at home to read anything or to watch TV, but living in a small house in a crowded neighborhood means that they do not feel free at home to do masti or play, because it is too cramped to allow room for play. So while freedom is a universal idea, these voices of children tell us that we cannot assume that the way we imagine freedom is the way everyone imagines it.
Freedom's thirst. I want freedom
to wear jeans.
I want freedom
for boys and girls to go to the same school.
I want freedom to go outside the house alone. I want freedom to live a magnificent life. Freedom!
Some of us have the freedoms this poem talks about, but others don't. Some may find it strange that freedom can lie in wearing jeans or in going outside the house alone. How can we make place for all the different ways in which freedom is imagined and experienced? That while one person struggles against a norm to be free, another chooses that norm to feel free. Perhaps this comes from our varying contexts, historical, cultural, social. When our contexts are different, our capacity to struggle for freedom is also different. Only if we're given the space to imagine how we want to be free, can we create the lives we want to live. Will listening help us to understand that lives can be magnificent in different ways? Who gets to define what is magnificent, what is free? Shuddhabrata Sengupta is an artist with the Raqs Media Collective, a writer, and a political commentator who has been thinking long and deeply about the idea of freedom. He responded to these poems and told us,
It was lovely reading these two poems because it took me right back to my time in school, where I used to feel exactly what these poems express. That freedom as an idea, children understand this very well, means different things in different places and at different times. Freedom is not just one thing of one color. So the important thing is like the freedom to be able to do something in the way that the first poem talks about the freedom to play, to speak, to ask questions. I can read any book I want in school, although I don't know if you can read any book you want in school, but it's a good thought. But I'm not free to talk. And it's a very interesting idea, because what is the point of being able to read any book if you can't talk about what you've read to your friend? So this idea of being able to receive something and being able to give it back, transmit what you've learned to other people, that these two are related freedoms is, I think, a fascinating idea. What I really loved is this question of the freedom to be able to do masti. Masti requires no justification. And that's, I think, a very important constituent of liberty, that it should have the freedom that we don't necessarily know the reason for just yet. We may know later, or we may never know, but it feels good, and that's enough of a reason.
I am free. I am free in school to study any subject I want, to play, to speak, to ask questions. I can read any book in school, but I am not free to talk. I am not free in school to talk with friends, to talk too much, to have fun. I am free in the library. I can ask any questions. I cannot feel bad here. I am free at home. I can read anything, but I am not free to fight. I am free at home. I can think anything, but I am not free to play. I am free at home. I can watch TV, use the phone, but I cannot do masti. In the home of my dreams, there will be freedom to speak, to play, to think.
Freedom's thirst. I want freedom
To wear jeans.
I want freedom
For boys and girls to go to the same school.
I want freedom to go outside the house alone. Freedom! Freedom to live a magnificent life. Freedom!
These poems are from Hum Hindustani, a project on children and citizenship for TESF India. The poems in this episode were read by
Anvi,
Daniel,
Hanya, Lakshmi,
Sara,
Siddhika.
More details on the project can be found in the show notes. The Hum Hindustani Poetry Podcast is a production of the Magic Key Center for the Arts in Childhood and is written and hosted by me, Samina Mishra. The children reading the poems were mentored by Ananya Tripathi. Studio recordings were done at Quarter Note Studios by Amartya Ghosh. Music is by Shireen Ghosh and the vocal track you hear is Ishan Chintamani. This podcast was produced by Raqs Media. Our thanks go out to all the children who participated in the Hum Hindustani workshops and wrote these poems. You can follow us on Instagram at the Magic Key Center or visit hum-hindustani.in to know more about the project. Support for this podcast comes from Rohini Nilikani Philanthropies.